my meta monsters. We're live! And today we're going to be talking about the 5 hand traps that you 100% need to be playing moving into the upcoming meta, because boy oh boy, it's gonna get real silly.
So we wanted to make this video because a couple weeks ago we were actually huge advocates for board breakers. Not anymore.
Yeah, those were so 3 weeks ago. We're over that now. We're back to hand traps, baby. And one of the main reasons we're moving into a hand trap meta is because Konami decided to hit Tearlaments on the ban list with... nothing! They hit nothing. They did nothing. They hit snow. That wasn't a solution, Konami, but it's okay. We forgive you. Not only that, but we are also getting the Bestial archetype in Literal Days and Magnificent Mavens releases in a few weeks, which just makes Tier all the more oppressive. So we've got a lot of stuff to cover. We're going to try and make it easy, but these hand traps are definitely things you need to be playing in this upcoming format. But before we get into all of that, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the video, and comment some hand traps or cool text that you're playing this format, because hey, I don't know everything. I'm just here to give you guys a nice general idea of what the hell is going on.
So as we said, Tearlament basically took 0 hits in Sprite, even though it is a very powerful deck, did take a notch down on the meta game. So we are basically in a tier, not 0, but a tier 0.5 format.
It's just tier. It's a tier format.
Wow. And then I do know that we get the Kshatriy laws, or however we're pronouncing them in the TCG, the Bystids, or however those are going to be pronounced in the TCG.
You know, silly TCG things.
Yeah, they're all just engines that Tier's going to play anyways. So when it comes to deck building, we wanted to make sure y'all are absolutely prepared, and we wanted to bring you the 5 best hand traps or categories of hand traps that you should definitely be considering in your main deck.
Because a lot of things are still susceptible to the same good old hand traps we've been used to for the last couple years. So with that being said, let's start with number 5.
Number 5, super simple, super easy. These are just your generic effect negations, things like your Infinite Impermanence, your Effect Veiler, and even your Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill.
These cards in particular are still really good, even though they are not like going to completely end a turn, which is why they're at number 5 for us here. They are still really good for the choke points. So your Gigantic Sprite, your Kit Kalos, things of the like where, you know, you're not going to necessarily end their turn, but it's definitely going to force them to play a different route. Number 4 isn't really a category, it's just a kind of standalone card by itself, but it has been coming in and out of the format for literally every single format. It feels like last format it wasn't in at all, but now it is, and that is Nibiru, the Primal Being. We love our big hot rock, and boy oh boy, you know what Tier doesn't do? Set up literally like 1 interruption, so that's really cool. So you can nib the crap out of them, which is nice because they definitely aren't nib proof by Summon 5. They're like not even nib proof at Summon 476. So yeah, nibbing them is definitely decent this format. It's actually in my main deck. I'm playing nib. I love that card. And again, it kind of falls into that category of like, even if it doesn't stop their turn, because sometimes they got the mills, they got everything, it still at least forces them to play differently. But a really well-timed nib this format is mwah.
Speaking of cards that need to be well-timed, let's transition into our 3rd pick here, and that is the majority of the graveyard hand traps.
Yeah, graveyard, baby.
These cards could be something like DD Crow, obviously, Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion is going to be insane, and even cards like Skullmeister might see play moving into the current format.
Yeah, Skullmeister's always been a really popular one, kind of the sleeper of the group, but Bell and DD Crow are absolute blowouts this format. And Bell is also really good with the Bestial stuff because they banish for effect, not for cost. So that's something to really think about.
And I know we're covering a lot of tier here, but just keep in mind that a lot of rogue decks and even some of the tier 1, tier 1.5 decks are also playing heavily in the graveyard. Sprite is trying to get cards out of the graveyard with cards like Elf. Even if they are playing the frog stuff, the frogs are trying to come back so you can make Toad. If you can cut them off from those lines and just cut off the graveyard in general with any of these hand traps, really stunts their end pool.
I mean, Elf is arguably one of the strongest link monsters in the game right now in the current meta, and Tier and Sprite are playing them. Pretty much any deck that can use Elf.
Tritron's playing Elf.
Literally any deck that can play Elf is playing Elf, and if they target for Elf, you DD Crow, man, that's a pretty nice feeling. So I definitely think Bell and DD Crow are incredible. Also, DD Crow not being a hard once per turn as opposed to Bell is crazy. I never feel bad seeing 2 DD Crow in my hand. That is just absolutely wonderful. So, and if you can DD Crow a tier player twice, have fun.
And now moving into our number 2 pick, I do think this could have been number 3 depending on the deck you're playing. I do think these two can kind of be interchangeable. However, this card has way more impact, and this card is unfortunately Dimension Shifter.
Yeah, you hate to see it. I know. We got Flu, we got Exorcister. It's a really good card, unfortunately. Obviously, we don't recommend playing Flu or Exorcister if you actually want to like win games. And obviously, while every deck can't play Shifter, the decks that can play Shifter, whether in the main or side deck, it's a hell of a blowout. It definitely stops a turn for Tier. Tier, like, literally can't play. They do nothing.
It ends the turn.
Like,
it's just done.
I don't think I've ever seen a Tier player do more than be on, like, set pass under Shifter, because they're not gonna risk just yeeting their deck away. So I think Shifter is absolutely bonkers. Sprite can definitely side it. I side it in Sprite. it's bananas. Obviously, Sprite can play around Shifter and with Shifter a lot better than Tear can. So that is a little bit of an advantage. Yes, obviously it stunts both players, but if you have a hand that is strong enough, you can do anything.
And as we did mention, in Darkwing Blast, we do get the Bestial stuff, and those cards are going to see generic play across every single deck. Not only will they function as an engine, but they will also function as hand traps, and if there's no cards in the graveyard to banish, your opponent's not summoning these cards, so you're essentially just bricking out a couple cards in their decks for 2 whole turns.
Yeah, unfortunately we are in a format where the graveyard is basically the second hand, so trying to stop the graveyard is more of a priority than trying to stop the on-field stuff, which is so wild to think about. And that brings us to number 1, which is another card that is kind of deck dependent. However, it is getting ultimate printing in OTS 20 in just a couple weeks, and that is Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. Baby, it is time to shine. You've been sitting on the shelf for a while. Oh my god, she's the elf on the shelf. Oh, that's so funny because it's Sprite. Elf is definitely a very important target for Winter Cherries. Like Sprite and Tear are both playing it. You get rid of the elf, that's really going to make things difficult, especially for Sprite. And then it just stunts Tear so that they can't do some BS nonsense to bring things back every turn. So it definitely helps.
I also think with the ban list just a couple weeks ago, taking cards like Red Reboot all the way to 0 and a Pointer of the Red Lotus to 1, it kind of opened up a lot of people's side deck room. So putting these in and also having the flexibility for some of your Winter Cherries targets, I'm actually siding Winter Cherries and Kit Kalos, and man oh man has it just absolutely cleaned up matches.
Honestly, it's really good for rogue decks too, or any deck that also isn't Sprite or Tear, because if you have extra deck slots, a lot of rogue decks do because they don't usually require all 15 slots, throw some targets in there inside Winter Cherries. Like, I think that's such a strong move this format, especially with all the branded support we're going to be getting in Photon Hypernova. We're going to be seeing a lot more branded very soon, so I think those are also valid targets. Super Poly is still seeing a lot of play.
Crazy.
Citing targets for that. I just feel like there are so many options with Cherries that you can just kind of have a ball with it. This format, you can hit pretty much anything and everything and impact some deck in one way or another.
And I think it kind of goes without saying that mirror matches, this card's broken.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty good telling your opponent they can't play a card, but you can. It's really frustrating. I love Yu-Gi-Oh! And obviously we had to put her at number 1 because she's going to be an ultimate rare and she's going to look really nice and I can't wait to open her. So make sure you stay tuned. We'll do an OTS opening whenever that set drops in a couple weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun, but hopefully these cards were helpful advice for you. Obviously I know it's easy to just say, oh, just, you know, play things, but this format has literally just begun, so we don't know where everything is going to end up, and neither do you, but the fun part is we get to go on that ride together, baby. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. We love you, you matter, and we will see you guys in the videos over here. I don't really know, we haven't uploaded very much lately, but we'll be uploading a lot more, I promise. We've been in the editing dungeon. Bye!